If you all want to take a moment to share this to your to share this, that would be great. I'm going to try to share it on mine. It's saying we are streaming live right now, so I want to welcome everyone to this Why Black History Matters Part 2. Good evening. My name is Kymara Seals. I am the Policy Director at the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. We are very excited to bring you this programming on this evening or whenever you're watching it. This is part 2 of a series called Why Black History Matters. And we want to thank Osiris Bali for his leadership. And yeah, absolutely. Osiris is wonderful. And he started this in February. We had one for Black History. So if you missed the one that Osiris did in Black History, make sure you go back and watch it. So he is the lead putting together this campaign. And what he plans to do is to do something every single month around the title of the campaign is Why Black History Matters. So kicking it off in February was ideal, which is Black History Month. However, we celebrate Black History every day. This is, like I said, this is the last day of Women's History Month. So it was befitting. And he said, well, no, you'll have to moderate this one since it's Women's History Month. So again, a shout out to Osiris for all his hard work in putting this together, and to our team. We have a dynamic team, Megan Bailey and Hope Adair, who's part of the team that helped, and Janice Elamine, who helped put this programming together. So we're going to get started. I hope you all have been able to start sharing this to your Facebook or other social media. So let's jump in. We've got some dynamic speakers. We've got 4 guest panelists on this evening, and I'm just going to say a sentence about each one, and then I'm gonna let everybody go around and you share with us what you want the viewers to know. First off, no particular order here. I'm going to start with Coffy Davis. Coffy is an author and a poet and founder of the March for Black Women and Girls. Thank you so much for being with us today, Coffy. We have Furonda Brasfield. Furonda is an attorney and a member of the Racial Disparities in the Criminal Justice System Steering Committee and a member of the NAACP. Thank you, Furonda, for being with us. Then we have Afro Angie, also and known, well, we have Angelica Perkins Walton, also known as Afro Angie on all of her social media platforms. Now, Afro Angie lives in Pine Bluff. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop to Pine Bluff. Okay, she is an activist and social media influencer and the owner of K&C Media. Afro Angie, thank you for being with us on this evening. And we have Evelyn Thomas. She is a strong Huttig school district in the strong Huttig school district as a behavioral intervention / academic for grades 7 through 12 and is a member of AEA. So a great shout out to all of these women panelists. We are so excited about this conversation today. So thank you all for being here. So before I, kind of get into questions and things like that, we want to make sure that our viewers understand that it's important that we magnify the voices and leadership of Black women and underrepresented communities. So with us doing something like this each month, It's our goal is to help educate around important issues. And so we're here today to have this conversation. Like I said, it's Women's History Month. We're women and we're gonna do this, okay? We know Black women make things happen, right? So let's just start. Whoever wants to start, let's start with Coffee. Just give us, a 2-minute spiel about yourself, or a minute, it doesn't matter. So yeah, you're on mute. Coffee, you're on mute. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So my name is Coffy Davis. I am, as you said, an author, a poet, and an activist here in Little Rock, Arkansas. I am a graduate of UALR with an English and tech writing degree. I wrote a book called, in 2017, I wrote a book called Medusa, Reflections of an Angry Black Girl, and also two books of poetry, one Ghetto Politics and also another Medusa, Reflections in Poetry. In 2004, I had created the Turn Project, which is the Underground Railroad Neighborhood Project, whose focus was on literacy and the marginalized communities. At that time, we called it at-risk youth. And working with that program, I began to see that there was also a need within with our women and girls. So we changed our initiative. Well, we expanded our initiative to include women and girls, and working specifically with issues that affect women and girls. Through that initiative, I began to create the March for Black Women and Girls that came about in 2019. And since then, we've been putting on an annual march that brings attention to a lot of the disparities with African-American girls and women, and also the violence, the intimate partner violence that's going on in our community, and also empowering, financial empowerment, and just all different aspects of Black womanhood.
Okay, great. Well, we got more. We're gonna come back with some questions. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go for Furonda. Give us a short.
I own Coffee's book, by the way.
I do too, Coffee. Hey, I bought the one Ghetto Politics. I bought that one. I'll have to give
Medusa. So I'm really excited to be amongst such beautiful Black women, such esteemed women in all of your own right. So thank you for having me. My name is Furonda Brasfield. I am an attorney with offices in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and I am I'm an activist. I believe in what's right and what's fair. I am a death penalty abolitionist, and I work with the 8th Amendment Project to create strategies to abolish the death penalty across the entire country. We know that the death penalty is a racist practice that has been used to, it was originally used as a noose, with lynching, racial terror lynchings, and it has progressed to what we know as the modern day death penalty. So that's a bulk of some of the work that I do. I'm the president of the board of the Decarcerate campaign, and we work to end mass incarceration here in the state of Arkansas. Just really excited for all of the work that's being done, and I'm happy to be here for Women's History Month.
Awesome. Thank you, Furonda. That's some amazing work that you're doing. Very important, very critical. We're going to talk more about that as we move through the program this evening. Evelyn Thomas, you want to share with us a little bit about yourself?
Good evening. I am Evelyn Thomas. I work at the Strong Huttig School District in Strongs, Arkansas. That's Union County. Many people may not have heard of Strongs, Arkansas. It's at the bottom of the state. I work with students in the 7th through the 12th grade. I work with behavior. Most of the students that I work with tend to have gotten in a little trouble in their classrooms, and instead of putting them out of school, I try to keep them in school.
Great.
And keep them on track with their grades, and work with them emotionally, as well as academically. Ma'am?
Oh, I said, that's great. I was just saying kudos. That's important work. Very important work.
I am also president of my local association with the Arkansas Education Association. Like I said, basically what I do is work with students. And to keep them on target, keep them out of school, trying to help break that school to prison pipeline. Let them know that they can achieve things, and sometimes you make a mistake, but you don't have to remain where you are.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas, for being here. And there's a special place in my heart for educators. My mom was an educator, so thank you for all you do helping our scholars. Okay, and now we're going to go Afro. Angelica, I'm going to refer to you henceforth as Afro Angie. How about that?
That's cool with me. That's cool with
All
me.
right, Afro Angie, let's go. Let's hear from you.
Well,
Short intro.
I am a 2019 graduate from UAPB. Yes, Golden Lions in the house. It's funny, I actually did not want to go to UAPB because of the stigma surrounding Pine Bluff. As soon as I came to the campus, I fell in love with the city, and I knew immediately that this is where I wanted to invest and at least be a part of the change wherever I could fit in. And being in Generation Z and loving social media, I felt like I could use some of my social media insight to try to make a difference in the community. And so that's what I'm doing here in Pine Bluff. And learning social media also showed me that there is a need for positive media in general. And so that is where KNC Media, the company that my family and I own, came about.
That's awesome. Thank you, Afro Angie. You all have to follow her. She talks about the new Black Wall Street in Pine Bluff, and her social media is just amazing. Is that TikTok where I follow you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, TikTok. Okay. Yeah, she's gone viral talking about, and there are people who travel to Pine Bluff because of her TikTok ads. So it is just amazing the work that she's doing to highlight all the good stuff. It is good to hear the good stuff about Pine Bluff. So thank you. And she and I are alumni of the same university. So that is great. So now what I want to do is ask you a few questions, and we're just going to kind of go around the room. Tell us one way you celebrate Black women and their accomplishments. Just one way. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I try to celebrate Black women at every opportunity, whether it's a reassuring smile, or if it's, the courtroom, if there's a new lawyer, making sure they know where to go and they feel welcomed. I see you, girl,
Yeah.
I saw a reel today where, we're just so in tune with each other. Say, okay, polka dots. So that's how I try to reaffirm and support Black women every single day, is to just be a light and to be a support in whatever way that I can.
That's great. Thank you, Furonda. Who's next? Who want to share next?
Okay, I'll jump in.
Okay.
One way that I celebrate Black womanhood is by doing my March for Black Women and Girls, where Black women and girls are centered the entire day. We have Black women as the vendors, Black women as the speakers, Black women in every aspect, the Black women putting together the organization, Black women volunteering, and we march in honor of Black women and girls. So we just spend the whole day celebrating, listening to Black girl music, being Black girl magical the whole day.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I need to spend a day with y'all. All right, who else? One way you celebrate Black women and their accomplishments, or our accomplishments, I should say.
Okay, Evelyn Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
Normally what I do in my classroom is I try to encourage Black girls is what I usually do,
Right.
to be more supportive of yourself, because a lot of times we don't see Black women in society doing things until, and they see the negative, the little bit they hear about it in the class, the little bit that's taught in some schools. But I try to get a role model, for instance, like Michelle Obama. I would say, look, this is somebody that you can aspire to be. Look what she's doing. And I try to encourage the young students, girls, to not think negative about themselves, but always be positive and be proud to be who you are as a young Black woman. Strive to always be proud of who you are. And there's a lot of times the girls' self-esteem is kind of low, and because their self-esteem is kind of low, and I try to motivate them to be more positive about themselves.
Right. Well, that's great. That is important work. That is important work. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Afro Angie.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Thomas and Coffee for sure. I think it's really about inspiring the girls, especially as it relates to Black beauty. A lot of times we talk about how beauty standards can make us feel like we're not wanted or valued in society. So I try to encourage Black girls, especially, like, no, you're beautiful. Tap into that uniqueness that God gave you and rock it. So
right. That's right. Awesome. Well, that is great. And I hope as we go through this program and there are people listening that will be inspired, that will hear what you're saying and be inspired, who maybe haven't even thought about any of this, and they will say, hey, I can do that, or I can do this. So, we really want to, kind of spread kindness and of course, educate, spread kindness, and inspire and motivate other people. So that's great. Okay, next round. Who are some of the Black women you personally consider your sheroes, or in particular, are there any Black women in history whose stories had a great impact on you? So whoever wants to start.
I think, so in history, somebody who definitely stands out, hands down, Harriet Tubman. That strength, I don't even know how you can compare to that. But it is, but in Pine Bluff, we are extremely fortunate to have an amazing Black woman mayor, Shirley Washington. Right. That lady inspires me so much.
and she was an amazing school principal before she was elected to be mayor. So she has a history in education that was phenomenal. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Next. A shero from history or in your life, period.
Who wants Evelyn Thomas.
Okay, Ms. Thomas.
Well, I mentioned earlier Michelle Obama. I try to relate to people that my students can see now, because a lot of history is not being taught. So if they can see strong Black women in today's society, I try to relate that to my students. And Michelle Obama would be one of them. I do like my Angelou also.
Right. And I was going to say, when you said people may not know where stamps, well, we people know that because Maya Angelou is from Stamps.
Exactly. Yes.
That's her home. So history knows that. So yeah, we know where Stamps is. Thank you for that. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll jump in. Of course, my mother, she to me, she is just like the most amazing. She paved the way. She raised free children. She's patient. She's kind. She's loving to everybody that she meets. So I've got to throw Bunda K out there. And then, the revolutionaries, Ida B. Wells, Asada, Angela, those that dared to challenge the status quo.
Right.
Said that this is not right, this is not fair, and this is not how it has to be, and we don't have to acquiesce to racist systems and white supremacy. And so I've got to give a shout out to the revolutionaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. All right, Coffee.
All right, well, I'm gonna halfway bite off of Furonda's. I also was thinking of my mother, who in the 70s left Arkansas, joined the military, and traveled the world, and took us with her, sometimes by herself. So that was very heroic to me for someone to take that on at that age and at that time. I also put a couple of revolutionaries down. I'm thinking of Assata Shakur. Of course, reading her book had a huge impact on me. Most of mine are going to be authors, by the way. Elaine Brown, reading her book and everything that she went through gave me a perspective on Black women in leadership, Black women in the revolution. And Terry McMillan. Just for giving me a picture of Black women as a young girl, a picture of Black women in different spaces. It was the first time I seen Black women like natural hair salons. Well, I visualized them because they were in her book. Natural hair salons, and going to see plays like Dream Girls and stuff like that. It just gave me a view of a different kind of Black woman.
Yeah. That's awesome. This is awesome. Now, Furonda, hold that picture up again. We need to see what that was. Tell us what that, I think I know what that is. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Tell everybody what it is.
It's the $1 million reward for Assata Shakur.
Yeah. And you have it framed. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Afro Angie, are you next?
Oh no, I remember Mayor Washington and Harry.
Oh yeah, you went first. That's right. Okay, so has everybody answered that question? Now, one of the things, I do have another question, but I wanna have just a conversation here and see, especially for the activists. Okay, how do you deal with the fact, or do you deal with the fact that people want to say, there you go again. You know, you're always doing this, or you're always doing that. And the reason I say that is because I contend with that. Now, I ignore those people, y'all. I'm gonna tell you, God has delivered me from what people think. So it doesn't bother me, but doing some of the work I do, it's always, is everything about race, or why are you always talking about equity or equality or racism, discrimination? How as Black women, we are activists. You know, we gonna address the tough stuff, and we're not gonna stop by no means. But how do you deal with that?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
No, I try to give myself grace, first of all, and, give myself grace and to understand that this is a very hard journey. Being a Black woman is probably the hardest thing you could ever do on earth. The music is denigrating you. You see so many crazy images about Black women in the media. So it's very tough. But I do that racial and equity and justice work as well. And one of the things that I say, hey, you're not gonna gaslight me. And as many times as you deal me the race card, that's how many times I'm gonna give it back to you. And I might throw you some more for good measure. Right. So not letting people gaslight you or play silly games with you and pretend like it's not racial when it is, or it's not misogyny when it is, So like I said, when you throw me those cards, you're gonna prepare to get them right back, and I don't feel sorry about it.
Right. Yeah, that's good. And I have this amazing innate ability to totally ignore those people. I don't let them use any of my energy. I totally ignore them, but they are there, and we ain't going away, y'all. We are here to do this work, and so I just had to throw that out there, because that is part of Black women's reality. That is, like you said, the music. We have the Black men who want to talk about us, and some who think we're too bold and too fierce, and need to sit down. Well, they ain't doing the work. So somebody has to take the lead. That's what I say, and those in Pine Bluff listening, they know. They know. So, but it is real. It is real. It's a part of our journey. And being, I'm military, I'm former military, I was in the Air Force Reserve. So I remember they let me know as soon as I got in, I was at the bottom of the barrel, well, y'all know I didn't stay there, right?
Right.
I went in shaking up some stuff, no rank, no nothing, but I went in talking, so, and doing some stuff. So, but anyway, that's just something I think was important. We lift up and share some insight on that.
Well, I unfortunately I haven't gotten to that point where I'm like, I don't care what people say. Unfortunately, I do care, but I do have two strategies that like a lot of times I have to just not even engage because it gets to me. Maybe that's I haven't quite matured yet.
Yeah.
But when I feel like going there with people, there's usually two things I do, because I feel like one group that I hear those comments from are people who aren't Black. And of course, you have to have some empathy, because I think it's natural to want to be included in everything, especially in the way our society, says everybody needs to be included. And so I remember one time on TikTok, somebody was like, are you saying that Pine Bluff is an all Black town and white people shouldn't be there? Why are you making it seem like this? And I was like, well, let's talk about if it was the other way around.
Right.
Let's imagine that white people had always had a predominantly white town, but were made to feel bad about their whiteness. And instead of staying in that spot, they turned it into a good thing and something to be celebrated. And it seemed like people started to understand it a little bit better.
Okay.
It's at first I wanted to be like, what do you mean? I wanted to go there,
Right.
But I felt like empathy is one thing that does help me to help people understand, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's just a necessary fight. But the other group that I get that from, unfortunately, is our own people.
Right.
A lot of Black people do not want to hear about Black stuff all the time. And for us, I have to talk about what we all want, right? For instance, I'm a big advocate for reparations.
Yeah.
People are like, I don't want a handout. And I'm like, okay, but your cousin, maybe not your cousin, I don't want to be disrespectful, but you probably know somebody that has done time for selling drugs. If they were equally compensated from jump, they would not have had to be in that position. So it's having to make it make sense, I guess, sometimes, but I'm not there yet. I still struggle with it, honestly.
Well, I understand. And there's a big age. I'm probably old enough to be your mother. I have a daughter that's 29 years old. So there you have it. So at age 52, I have zero cares to give about what anybody says, and also, Afro Angie, you referenced that a lot of the kickback does come from my own people. The racism, discrimination issue we dealt with in Pine Bluff in the street department. Black folks saying, "Let it be." No, we ain't gonna let that be. It's wrong, and we had to address it and got good results at the end. But it was it was the good middle class Black folk who wanted to let it alone. Okay, so I don't have much respect for them, but at the same time, there's this fear that one certain person's ice is colder than the others, and that's the truth. That is the truth. There are people who have that mentality, and as Black women activists, we have to deal with that. We have to deal with those mentalities, and so I just don't have the patience. I don't, that's why I can ignore them and keep on my journey. I don't have to address them. I don't have to, I don't have to include them. We do the work despite that, but they still exist. So, okay, well, great conversation. Anything else before we move on?
I want to kind of jump in there. So for me, what I do is I typically tune it out and I'm probably in the middle. Like I hear it, I still hear it. It still
Yeah.
bothers me somewhat. And sometimes I may, give a little smoke back, but for the most part, I try to tune it out and just kind of focus on the mission. My
Right.
pushback usually comes from whenever, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but whenever you talk about empowering Black women,
Mhm.
everybody gets offended.
Right.
Everybody gets offended and feels like it's anti-Black or it's feminist or it's, so
Right.
you're aligning yourself with feminism and it's divisive to the community and it's not about the Black family, and trying to help people understand that empowering the Black woman is empowering the Black community. It is empowering the Black family. It's a pro-Black family. It's pro community. Yes,
Mhm.
definitely. It's definitely
That's
gaslighting.
gaslighting. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that pushback comes from sometimes in our own community, where I have to convince, and it's bothersome to me because I've sat on a lot of my Brothers Keepers panels, and I remember in the 90s a whole lot of initiatives geared toward empowering our men, and so to have that pushback now, it's disheartening sometimes. But
Yeah.
I try to focus on those that are, because we get a lot of support from our community also. So I try to focus on those that are supporting, and hopefully the other ones will come around.
Right.
The other pushback that I would get is from other people outside the community who feel like, okay, well, it's not inclusive of us. No, it's an all inclusive endeavor. You too can help in the empowerment of Black women by opening up spaces, by supporting financially, by doing the things that we do when we step into other communities also. And so those are my two biggest pushbacks. And like I said, I know it's forging a new path. I know it's something that hasn't been on the forefront, but we're putting it on the forefront, and you're all going to see us and recognize us and love on us. And in return, you'll see the community benefit.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you all for your comment. We'll move on to the next topic, but that is great. And maybe Coffee, I need to start giving some smoke back. Normally I just ignore it and stay focused on the mission. But if I give smoke back, who knows where it may go. So that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. So, okay, finish the phrase. When Black women lead. Just one word, just one phrase, finish the phrase.
When Black women lead, everyone benefits.
Okay, next.
That's what I was going to say. Everyone wins.
That's awesome. Anybody else?
The world learns compassion.
Yeah. Anything else? Or anything else do y'all think about? When Black women lead.
When Black women lead, the world can be an awesome place.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. Thank you. What spaces already exist or should be created for Black seeking authentic support and sisterhood? What spaces, are there spaces that already exist where there's authentic support and sisterhood? And if not, should it be created?
I can name a few. First of all, therapists, Black female therapists that, and I have I've had therapists of all, nationalities and everything, but it's something about having a Black female therapist to speak with you. I would think that's one of our safe spaces. And then there's a lot in the community here. There's a lot of, it's just been blossoming with spaces for Black women. There's the Girl Talk, Alternative Tribe does a Girl Talk for girls. I think it's something like 12 to 17-year-old girls, and they come in and talk about issues that they need to address. There's Place for Resources, Parenting Decolonized, and all these are Arkansas, founded and Arkansas based. Parenting Decolonized is an organization that works with parents, Black parents, and how to raise Black children in a decolonized way, I guess. And then I know that me and a coalition of women that I get with, we do like healing spaces created by Amber Booth, which is the Diversity Booth and the founder of the Diversity Booth. She does the healing space, and we get together, on Zoom or in person, And those are just really good spaces where I can just be a Black woman in my in all my splendor and feel 100% comfortable in all aspects of it. So we can take off the professionalism if we need to, and be us, and girl talk, and it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful space.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Any other? Can you think of any others? Spaces. Okay. So Furonda, what did you say? Let me pull up your comment. Healing space. Oh, with Amber Booth McCoy. Yeah.
I was just trying to keep my notes so that I can follow up with these.
I got you. I see. Exactly. Well, I'll go back and watch this and take notes because it's some good stuff being shared on here. So, Miss Thomas, I have a question for you. Why is it important for children to see Black teachers and Black professionals in our schools?
I feel that it's important because when they see themselves reflected in us, then they're more engaging, they feel more comfortable, they respect it more. In the school system, a lot of times Black education is not really taught, it's mentioned.
There you go.
But it's not taught or stressed. And a lot of time our students are not taught at home about Black history. So I asked that question, and one student said, I really don't know that much about Black history. And I asked, why do you dress the way you do? Why do you act the way you do? Why do you wear your hair the way? They said, well, because it's a fashion. They're not relating back to the struggle to get them the freedom that they have to do what they need to do or can do. Yeah. And I think it needs to be more seriously taught in the public school. Even now, we are having biracial children coming to school that are having to deal with situations that my father's Black, my mother's Latino. It's not just a Black and white situation now. And our kids are being stuck in the middle, and they don't realize a lot of the things it took to get where we are now, the freedoms that we have. And so it's been kind of a struggle for them to associate why they do what they do other than social media. Yeah. And they're looking on that and getting a lot of what they think Black history is about.
Right.
Not what it's actually about.
Right. Okay.
And well, so I think it's more important. I think it's important to see more Black people in the education system working with our children to let them know, to talk to them, engage with them. And right now, that's not happening because a lot of educators are not Black people are not going into education.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's some studies around that, and we know that salary levels aren't where they need to be to attract educators in this day and age, in a number of reasons. So, but yeah, thank you for that. And I love, and one of the things that you said that I said when I testified in one of the committee hearings about Black history, they were talking about critical race theory. And I'm like, Black history is not even taught in schools. It's mentioned, but they're not teaching. There is a difference, there is a difference. So thank you for sharing that. But I'm a piggyback off of that to Afro Angie when you mentioned about the social media. Afro Angie, how did you get your start as a social media influencer, and what inspired your TikTok series of the New Black Wall Street in Pine Bluff? Tell us how you got your start on that.
So that is a really funny story. So I hate to say it, but I was inspired by Kim Kardashian, and she's not really one of my favorite people, right? But whenever I was a senior in college, that's when she decided to change her image, her brand, into being an attorney. And I remember I was like a little bit upset. Probably shouldn't have been that upset. But I remember she and some other, I think, Black attorneys were working to free somebody who was incarcerated. And she got all the attention because she was the one that everybody knew. And I was like, now hold on. I was like, I know that, like, you know, she's doing a good thing. I didn't want to take that away from her, but I felt like there was a lot of activists that I knew, even just working with the public policy panel, who did amazing things, but because they didn't have that brand, nobody knew about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and try to become an influencer.
Well, you did that thing, girl. Oh, you doing that thing. Yeah.
What's funny though is, so I started out on Instagram, and I really still haven't taken off on Instagram. I'm very thankful, don't get me wrong, but I'm glad that I failed on Instagram first, because something that I really underestimated was, it's one thing to want to be an influencer, but it's another thing to learn how to influence. And influencing is not just sharing what you think, or, you know, you have to be very calculated with it, just because of the way human nature is. And so, y'all, I mean, at one point on Instagram, I was losing hundreds of followers because I didn't know how to do it. But thankfully, I studied, like, you know, the art of human nature, psychology, and just really learning like what gets people interested in things. And TikTok, I tried it again, and thankfully, you know, God was with me, and it started to work.
You blew up. You blew up, sis. You did that. Well, that is great. That is great. Next, Furonda, when did you make the decision to pursue a career as an attorney? I know you worked in the field of education a couple of years. And then what is your thoughts on Black women in the legal profession?
Absolutely. I think I made my mind up that I was going to be an attorney right after the America's Next Top Model show.
Okay.
I moved to New York, and I was modeling in New York, and I just did not appreciate the way that I was treated. You know, the models are to be seen and not heard. Nobody cared what you thought, even about your own appearance or how they were, you know, jacking up your hair or your makeup. They just didn't want to hear. And I knew that I had so much more to say, and that I had to be heard. You know, I had to have autonomy. I had to work towards equity in all things, equity in all things. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna go to law school. And that's what I did. What was the second part of your question?
And Black women in the legal profession. What are your thoughts about the state of Black women in the legal profession?
I think that we absolutely need more Black lawyers. We absolutely need more Black female attorneys as well. I think that we need the legal community to be more welcoming. You know, I can say something, this is my opinion, you know, that I can say something and in a court of law, you know, zealously arguing for my client, and you know, it may be taken in a different way that if my white counterpart, male counterpart said the same thing. You know, when Black female attorneys show up to court, we're more likely to be seen. I had someone on Zoom, you see it says Furonda Brasfield Esquire. Someone asked me if I was a defendant. You know, I've gone to court and had judges ask me if I was the defendant, or, you know, or began to speak to me as if I were the one that was facing charges before the court. And so, you know, those biases, you know, we're still working against those implicit biases and those sometimes very explicit biases that people express because a Black female lawyer is not the norm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And Coffy, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but what inspired you to start March for Black Women and Girls? And tell us some ways you promote healing and protection in our community.
Okay, and I think it was around 2017 or 2018, I started noticing the outrageous number of murders of Black women and girls in our community, and specifically in Arkansas. And so at first I didn't know if it was like an Arkansas issue, because I moved here, it's been 20 years, I moved here 20 years ago. So I hadn't been in California for a long time. So I didn't compare it to other states. I just thought, okay, well, I know here in this community, this is what we're dealing with. So I started collecting the names and collecting data, and I felt like no one was paying attention. It was very hard to get the information because it was barely talked about on the news, but it was turning into like every week or every other week, I was noticing like a Black woman or girl being murdered. And I started recording the data. By 2019, I had 93 names. And this is in the central Arkansas area, like Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, Pine Bluff, just in the immediate area. And so I started collecting these names, and I thought that I should do something to bring awareness to this issue. And I thought that I was alone in it, but as soon as I started bringing awareness to it, then all these other people started popping up. And one of them was Black Femicide, who's also located here in Arkansas, the founder of Black Femicide. And she had been collecting data, but she started collecting data nationally. And so then we knew, okay, this is a national issue. So come to find out, there was between 2020 and 2021, there was a 40% increase in murders of Black women and girls. And so we collected data, Black Femicide collected data, and then also the FBI was collecting data, and we were all, comparing them. And so I did the March for Black Women to bring awareness to that event, but I also didn't want it to be a somber event. I wanted to celebrate Black women, also to provide a space to financially empower, as well as to give resources to kind of combat this issue. And so that initiative turned into just a year-long thing where we were doing community baby showers, writing through trauma workshops, and yeah, so it just took off from there. We took the march from here to Atlanta. Black Femicide, they oversaw the one that was in Atlanta, and we went out there. And this year we'll also be going to Washington, D.C. We went to Houston to do the march, and I noticed that also these were springing up all over the United States, and so it was just a collective that we unconsciously all just kind of got on the same accord. And then newspapers like the Guardian came out and did stories on the increase, because I guess they noticed. Yeah. I don't know if they noticed through our awareness or independently, or in the Washington Post also.
Right. Okay, that is interesting. And speaking of trauma, and I know Osiris is not on the panel, but he's listening. We probably should do something on how we deal with trauma in the Black community, because there is so much trauma that we have got to process through. We've got to talk about mental health, and that it's okay to get help and all of that. So we definitely need to do something on that. But
absolutely,
thank you for your work on that. So one last thing as we prepare to wrap up, I want to thank all of you for being on this panel this evening. What you have shared, your voices has been amazing, but we absolutely cannot end this broadcast, Women's History Month, without bringing up our sister, Ketanji Brown Jackson. So I know we are all ecstatic about her pending confirmation. We know she'll be confirmed. But first, I want everybody to share just one thing, but I want to start with Furonda, because you are the attorney on the panel. And so just what do you, just share something. I mean, we know her. We know how she's been treated. We've seen, those of us who've watched it or seen highlights or something, we know the treatment this sister has been through during this process. And it has just been horrific. So just share with us, this is we're preparing to close on this statement. So just share something with us. And I want to start with Furonda on this one. So.
This is a testament. so many of us are gaslighted throughout our entire lives,
Yes.
to the point where it makes us think, am I making this up? You know, this type of behavior that people are doing. I feel like people are treating me differently, but I can't really name it. And nobody's going to admit to it. They're just going to look at me in my face and say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, we saw this this gaslighting on display, but it was in the face of excellence. What can you say about this sister who has more experience than all of the Supreme Court justices combined?
Exactly.
What can you say to her other than, excuse me, Ms. Brown, do you know the Muffin Man? You know, those types of ridiculous questions, that irrelevant questions. You know how we see it in our everyday life, how they try to make you the angry Black woman when they see you and you're excellent and they can't take anything away from your performance. Now they want to play silly games with you and try to make you act out so that they can point the finger at you and say, oh, look at her, she's an angry Black woman, and just totally disregard all of your accomplishments. They are so used to playing that game, and they that's what they're doing. But it's very obvious, and we are tired, and we see the jig is up, you know. No longer playing these games with y'all. So that's what I think about. I think that she will be confirmed, and I think that we all should be empowered to say, you know what, we're not playing with y'all no more.
Right. That's it. We ain't playing with y'all no more. That is it. Anybody else? Thoughts on?
I felt like it was grace under fire. I was like, okay, that's how you handle that. And also I appreciated the fact that even though she didn't do it intentionally, microaggression and all the office politics stuff that we go through in certain spaces was put on the world stage for the world to see. They can't act like they don't see it. They don't know what's going on. It was there. It was very blatant. And I was very appreciative of the way that she handled it. So grace under fire.
Grace under fire. That's it. Because she did that. She did that. Okay. Anybody else? Afro Angie, Ms. Thomas.
Well, Mrs. Evelyn Thomas, I'm very proud that I feel like she's going to be confirmed, and I'm just going to call it. I'm going to say she's going to be confirmed, but I will use her as an example for my young Black girls in the school to say she's the first, and then inspire. Let that be an inspiration to them that you can do anything that you want. Sometimes we have to work twice as hard, but you can get there.
I'll always work twice as hard. Yes, ma'am, we do. Yes, ma'am. We got to work twice as hard, be twice as good. That's right. So I learned that in the military, by the way. Yeah. So Afro Angie, you got any thoughts on it?
No, I just agree with everything that's been said.
Yeah. So grace under fire, that's amazing. A phenomenal woman. And like Furonda said, she is clearly the most qualified of any jurist that has ever been seated on the nation's highest court. When you look at her credentials, it is just totally amazing. So we're so excited. So again, thank you, ladies, for being a part of this second series, Why Black History Matters. We hope our listeners, our viewers have been inspired, motivated. Put your comments in the comment. Those of you watching on Facebook Live or watching the replay, you can still put a comment in, and we'll have people monitoring that. And this is a campaign that's going to be year round. A shout out to Osiris Bali, who is the coordinator, and he put a great panel together and did all the footwork, lead work on this. And thanks to our back office staff for the work they've done in making this happen. I just have the fortunate and the pleasure to be able to moderate it. And so, but it's been a great, great conversation. Thank you, ladies, so much. And I bid you good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.